Rising en Miles Smith is Wait for You. Is hoop ek op 12:10 natuurlijk. En ek het weer gesê ek het 'n interessante hoofstuk van hoop vandag. And with me in studio today, it's actually the first hoofstuk van hoop that I'll be doing in English. John Lewis, good morning, how are you?
Hallo, goeiemôre, baie dankie Pieter. Ja, verskoon my Afrikaans asseblief julle mense. I am very much an Englishman. Just very pleased to be here. Thank you so much for the invite, Pieter.
Yeah, it's a groot plesier, my friend. Groot plesier. So let me just give a little bit of background to our listeners about how it is that we ended up talking. So I have a friend from Pretoria North, and she has a son that struggles with substance abuse, if you can call it that. I'm not sure exactly what. But she actually has a little green board that what do you call those?
Pinboard, yeah.
A pinboard. She's got a pinboard with a little bag and obviously the little pipe that he uses to smoke whatever it is that he smokes, and she's got it pinned on her board. And her son is and he's been struggling with it on and off for a long time. And I try to understand these things, and so it has been my experience that even on my shirt it says "Rumfuret," and it means to call forth. And so what kind of happened actually is that I posted something on Facebook saying, repeating words that she had said to me while we were talking about it the last time. And you reached out and you thought it was my son, but I'm not. I'm actually not that old. He's almost 30 years old now, and so, but we started speaking, and you obviously had your journey, and we started talking about that. So, but that's a little bit of background. But I want to get a little bit of background about who you are, where you come from, and how it is that you guys started with drug use, and then we'll obviously move along it to where you're at now exactly. So, let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up?
Thank you, Pieter. Yeah, I hail from the West Rand in a small town called Western Area.
Lekker man, Western Area.
Yeah, not from a mining background. My father actually worked in production print in Johannesburg, and my mother raised us at home until we were in senior school, and then went into case management and medical. Yeah, very solid home. And all the opportunity in the world, a strong Christian background. My parents were very involved in the church, and actually no reason whatsoever other than just bad choices that led me down this path in the long run, but all of these support and a great family. I have an older sister, and yeah, just bad choices, I guess you could say.
Okay. And so these bad choices started in the high school roundabouts?
So I think a lot of my bad choice problems started off with seeking affirmation in school, wanting to fit in, and having more of a quiet sense and empathic sort of personality. I found it difficult to...
And mostly being unaware of that, in fact.
Yes, yeah,
because that's actually
I'm learning that much later.
Like myself included, when I started with the alcoholism, I only later realized, actually, I'm a little bit of an empath and not a people's person as much. So, but sorry, carry on.
So, yeah, I found myself surrounded with some of the more rebellious boys and then just struggling with the banter. And I wasn't much of a sports person. I was more an artistic type. I was a great guitarist and quite artistic as well. And just struggled to fit in and constantly seeking affirmation from my peers and wanting to just receive that approval from people around me. Obviously, there were the older boys and the rebellious boys and all the different sort of subgenres of music and all these kind of things that do influence one. And then the day came that I was with a friend, and he actually went to go and buy some cannabis, and I chose not to use the substance with him that day. But a few weeks later, I went over to his place again, and he wasn't home. And for some reason, after saying no to cigarettes and cannabis for so long, already months already, I just made a sort of choice straight away, just a compulsive move to go and look for this stuff. And I got myself a bit of cannabis, and I went home and I tried it. And that was it, that was now I had taken that step that ultimately turned into a horrible story in my life going forward.
Not to blame it on the types of music that people actually listen to, not to blame it on that at all, but if you can give us a kind of an indication of what it was, what types of music we were actually listening to.
Well, I mean, like I said, I was a guitarist, and I was very interested in creating music and learning tablature and playing my guitar. But at the same time, the rave scene was taking off, and the older boys were coming back after the weekends and telling us about different clubs they'd been to, and the DJs and the music and the experiences, and taking substances in the clubs and the lights and the glamour and all this kind of thing. And they would show us the flyers, and they would show us photographs on their phones and things like this. And this was quite a temptation to go and experience this,
Yeah.
with the cool kids and the girls and the highly dressed people and the cars and everything. So we all wanted to go and experience it. And I think that was also a major temptation going forward, and then obviously not just wanting to jump straight into the deep end and go and experience this. I one evening decided to jump onto my motorbike and go and meet some friends at a local club in Waltz Drift. It was called Stonewalls. It's long closed since then. And we took ecstasy for the first time, and it was just an absolute altered reality altogether. But having done that, it was also an experience, and it was now a matter of sort of experimenting and dancing with the devil a little bit, if you would. It was kind of exciting. So I wanted to find out more, and the girls were not interested in me. I was now around the crowd of the cool people. I had stories to tell on the weekend, and it felt like almost a sense of excitement and experiment and acceptance at the same time.
Mm. It's just a mixture, a really bad mixture, actually. Seeking the approval of other people and things like that is one of the more difficult things that we struggle with when it comes to substance abuse, and that's actually something you can draw across the board, whether it be cannabis use or hard drugs, if as we speak about them, but alcoholism, those types of things. It's always that sense of belonging, and um, it stems so much from rejection. It's actually quite sad that rejection is one of those things that actually drives so much of our behavior as young people. And then the story always goes, during our 20s and 30s, we start actually trying to fix ourselves in one sense, and struggling and getting back up. And I think that's the basic premise of the hero's journey, as they call it, right? Um,
I think that it's a matter of the hero falling down and picking himself up a lot, as like you've just mentioned now, in even your mid-20s going into your early 30s, we realize very early that it's a temporary solution to a bigger problem. But at the same time, the temptation with it is growing to experience more, and people are talking about the next best thing, and you haven't done that yet, and then so we just delve deeper into the belly of the monster.
yeah. So look, but although there's been a lot of folklore growing up as a teenager, some of the things that I've heard and things like that, it's a lot of folklore, if you will, surrounding substance abuse, which a lot of them aren't actually 100% correct. But I think some of the basic structures of those things that we learned as kids is actually correct, because it very much is if I say yes today for this thing, the next time it'll be easier to say yes for that next thing. And peer pressure, obviously, there's something that influenced you a lot during your journey. So okay, you started using the cannabis the first time, and then it started to ecstasy. At what age did you actually start developing the real big problem?
Well, it escalated from substance to substance, and I can say that I can still clearly remember the night that I was in a club, and I was working with a runner that I was going to buy some ecstasy from in a rave, and we stepped into a toilet, and we did the transfer of money to substance. And straight after the deal had been done, he said to me, do you want a line of coke on the toilet? And he chucked some lines of coke, and I was shocked. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was rattled, and I said to him no. And once again, the story just repeats itself. A few weeks, months, whatever it was, later, I wanted to experience this, and I went and did it. And that's where the terrible downward spiral began. The the high is so much more satisfactory, but so much more short-lived. The substance is more expensive. It's an absolute lie, a sense of sort of you are now a concierge sort of user, you're using this highly fashionable substance,
Yeah, you're elite in some sense.
That's
Yeah, man, whatever they use to sell this stuff, man. It's if you're a cocaine user, it's like you're the elite type of a life, because all the rich people and successful people actually use this thing, and it has this sense of like, accomplishment that goes with it. So it's so strange actually how it works.
Let me tell you something. After having years and years and years spent countless amounts of money on that substance, there's nothing grandiose about it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely nothing whatsoever. It ties you into the wrong kind of people, business people, philanthropists, entrepreneurs, women, strippers.
Yeah.
It's a horrible world, and unfortunately, with that specific substance, you're stuck in this delusion of grandeur for a long time. And the money just goes,
Listen, all right. So we're gonna continue with the story right after this. I think I thought it might be actually appropriate. So we're gonna listen to Zach Williams, "No Longer Slaves," just after this. John Lewis, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Pieter. Let's be just such a privilege. You're just so great.
You mentioned something. I thought it'd actually be great to play that song, but I think you mentioned something about the recovery centers and things like that. But we'll get to that with this song. So I just want to finish off where or start up back up from where we finished off last. So you took that first line of coke in the bathroom at the club with this guy. You were a bit shocked, and then months after you actually did it for the first time. And then it started spiraling. You started using burning money and things like that. You can't believe. So let's pick up from there, please.
Okay, so at the time I was working, coming from a health and fitness consulting background, and just with the gift of the gab, I think it was since a child, I was able to excel really, really well in sales, and was earning huge commission at the time. From the 20,000 back to 50,000, working to 80,000. After 25, I was clearing often many times in months that I was clearing over 100K. So the money was there. But at the same time, I was attracting so many bad people into my life. We would sit in the office and consult, and then between consultation, we'd be discussing the next rate, the next DJ, the next party, the next place to go to. And that just escalated till eventually I found myself to be such an acute cocaine addict that I was walking around 2 to 3 grams of cocaine.
All right. That lasted, let's say, that was at about the age of 25. Now we're already 8 years into the scene or whatever. Where did it actually start going wrong? Really bad.
It's a choice, as I've said to you time and time again. It's a choice to recover, and it's a choice every single day to fight this thing called substance abuse. But at the time, the choices were there. I was just making I was dating a girl, and we had a fight the one night, and she left my place, and then I was living in a plush apartment in Northcliffe at the time. I went down to a shopping mall where I intended to go and just drink a cold draft, maybe a pub in the suburb sort of thing. And on the way, I was intercepted by some street kids that were standing outside the old Gecko Lounge, which was, let's not tease this guy, but they were smoking cannabis, and obviously having been involved in the cocaine, because I hadn't been smoking cannabis before, but I knew that I'd been using cocaine for a long time, days and days and days, and that this would then bring me down and make me feel better. I spoke to the guys on the street. I said to them, "Can I just buy all this cannabis from you so I can smoke the J and I go get myself a pub sub, drink a beer, and get over the fight that I had with his girlfriend." because we really were arguing about tobacco. And little did I know that if they had laced the cannabis with what they call tar white. I had no idea what the substance was, but immediately I could feel the effects of it. And I went from a terrible feeling of anxiousness, needing another line of coke, to being completely docile. And I said, what's in the stuff? And then they said to me, this is tar white. And of course, I just jumped in. I was like, get some of that. Give me 10 of those.
So Ty, like just to explain to our listeners as well, is that's heroin.
That's heroin, yeah. So it's heroin that I then began smoking again cannabis and even a tobacco. I had a long time been very fearful of smoking cocaine because I'd seen the effects of crack addiction. Being in the circles of cocaine addicts. I always chose to stay away from that. But having made that choice and then obviously realizing that I was smoking heroin at the time, just 2 months later, I just jumped in from school. I was like, okay, well, then you do what they call roller coasting, where it becomes a matter of taking a hit of cocaine and then smoking a hit of heroin on turn for freebasing that. And that's where the downward spiral really began. I just got into a place where every 20 minutes I was hitting a block of coke and taking it down on heroin. Working, non-working, suited, at home, with family, anywhere. I'd have a little pouch, a couple of rocks in at the park, and a couple of pieces of tinfoil, and they just went off. 5 years, just constantly riding this whole roller coaster up and down on crack cocaine. It's fucking you.
And you, oh man, that's tough. And then obviously, it's actually such a strange thing. It becomes such an easy choice to say yes, and take the next step. And once you start spiraling, you actually don't realize you think that you're actually trying to keep your life together and things like that. But at what point did you realize that, listen, I have now lost control and this pony is taking me somewhere that I did not expect? Because then you're going to start losing jobs and people are going to start noticing and family members and things like that. How did that?
At the time that I was doing this, I would make sure that I would cover the basis by paying my rent and, obviously the food budget went up. You'd buy a couple of items of clothing so that you could look good and acceptable. But people started to notice,
Because the personal care
John's not okay.
Yeah, personal care starts going up at some point.
I would sit and use right through the night. And then I would put down next to my bed a few hits of each substance. Wake up in the morning, open my eyes, hit a rock, smoke a hit to calm down. Walk down my passage, and I can still remember vaguely there was a mirror at the bottom of my passage, and I'd see myself walking towards this mirror. And I'd just be
Look like a ghost.
awful person. And then I would have a shave, put on a smart shirt, a tie, and I'd put my clothes on, and I'd go off to work, And I would actually take the morning walk, which was like 2 blocks to my office, and that would give me the time to sort of calm down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd do my morning meeting, and I'd do a few consultations, and then just either before or after lunch, I'd quickly phone a drop off, and I'd hit another one. And then maybe around about 4 or 5 o'clock, I'd hit another one, I'd work till 7, go home. On the way home, have my delivery in my front gate just to let that stop. Sit in my lounge and use the whole night. So things were falling apart rapidly. And like you say now, you realise that you on a downward spiral, but the sense of delusion that you feel from that up and that down from taking these extremely hard substances that have destroyed countless lives globally for generations. You don't really absorb the fact that you're fighting ability. Understand? So that's a sense of absolute satisfaction to absolute depression up and down through this tumultuous downward spiral as you go. You just hold it your life because it's just like you don't reach out to anyone. I was very grateful, and Blessed to have a decent understanding boss, and having achieved what I had in consulting, they were quite supportive. They could see the destruction, and at one point they tried to intervene, and I was sent to a sun-up drug test once a week. I can still remember that. I got myself clean for 5 days to get the substance out of my body, and I took the first urine test and I passed it. And the following 14 urine tests I failed to go away with. And then, that sort of thing was criminal nature comes.
No,
I can
because
get away with it.
I can get away with it, and it's just adding fuel to the already uh, feeling that like I can do this.
It's a mask.
It's,
On the
it's a,
outside, you bring this professional face that, you're the face of health and fitness. But behind closed doors, the polar opposite of that. You're an absolute mess, broken man. The training went out the window, the healthy lifestyle went out the window. You wash your face, you really do some haircut, you put on a nice cute tie, and you just go right to the work.
So you've also tried a lot of places, like you've been to psychiatrists, psychologists, centers, hospitals. Like, can you walk me a little bit through about how you ended up there?
So I had my first breakdown in that club where I took HartiesFM one night, and just had a very, very bad trip. My family intervened and they took me to the psychiatrist in Harter. I sat there for the consultation third. She just wanted to put me on the romance. My father said no to it, and I had to put myself right. My family, the loving family that I came from, did everything in that power to try and turn my life around. I went to recovery centres. I did clinical recovery. At the same time, my addiction had then escalated where I was out of the house for weeks at a time, months at a time, even just with friends, staying from house to house and couch hopping, and having lost the work and jumping from job to job now. The distraction was starting to take root into my life, and the addiction was getting worse as well. The heroin started to take over the crack addiction. And I made the choice to start injecting heroin. And that's when I reached out to my family and said, listen, I've got a major problem now. I'm not physically addicted to heroin. I'm injecting heroin, and, these things are getting bad. And so they gave me a choice. They said to me, I can either go to Oakwood and take the tough love route, or I could go to another centre that is based here and do a methadone treatment. So I chose to take the methadone treatment.
The neighborhood is in the middle of nowhere, by the way. It's so far from anything.
Not a nice place.
You got to walk out 100 kilometers and you're still not going to find anything, brother.
And it's not there.
I actually had a friend that wrote a book called No Poort, Pieter Motiveer, and shout out vir hom. Maar uiteraard hy het 'n boek geskryf nou wat so 'n bietjie praat oor daai sente. En dit is baie ver. Daar's niks. Net na die handelsdek vir King and Country, Burn the Ships, en dan gesels ek en John bietjie verder.
Yes.
In the studio with me, John Lewis.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Hey man, it's actually it's nice actually to do an interview in English. But I'm struggling. All the years I've had to speak English while I'm working and things like that. It's the first time that my show is a little bit bilingual,
Yes.
but I don't get to speak to English speaking people much in my show.
So in my defense, I just want to let you know that all of my English friends think that I can learn Afrikaans beautifully. I'm just not going to do it.
All right, so John, last we spoke, you had to make the choice between no poort and methadone, and you chose methadone treatment, and from there you've also kept on trying to go to this center, that, and tried all these different things in order to be able to help yourself get out of it.
Pieter, so many failed recoveries time and time again, and having my life now degraded to a point where I was homeless, completely homeless, living in the streets, involved with the worst kind of people known to man, surrounded by syndicates and prostitution, this kind of thinks hope is going to the other side, But I can remember every single morning waking up, and I don't know to this day whether it was a state of psychosis or just absolute desperation, but I would walk from where I was to where I would try to organize, as an addict, hit and pray to God for my family, pray to God that I would find a way to escape this terrible addiction and just for some door to open that I could turn this life around. You get to a point where you're looking at people around you in your normal society and thinking, oh, man, if I could just have a car, if I could just have a new pair of shoes, if I could just get up in the morning and go to work, is there ever going to be an opportunity for me to have my life back, have some form of life back, And then, it was just by the grace of God, nothing less than the absolute grace of God that some of the dirty bikers actually got a hold of me and invited me to a church meeting and we discussed things, tough love, where I was, what I was doing, and if there was any hope for me. And we decided just to try to get me to withdraw off the heroin, which lasted about 8 hours. And then I phoned him up. I said, listen, I need to I just want to do this. Should we discuss booking me into a psychiatric ward? I went to a psychiatric ward, was booked in, and then later asked to leave, and I refused to leave. I'd already made the choice that morning. I'd thrown away a bit of paraphernalia, used my last substance, and said that is this in this chapter. I sat for 4 days in a waiting room in Helen Joseph Psychiatric Ward until my sponsor managed to make a plan to a faith-based ministry where I spent 2 years in primary recovery and ultimately lifted myself up to a volunteer staff member and through a very strong team of people around me and the support of my family and support my life again. On the 11th of November, I'll be clean for 6 years and thriving, running my own business, a healthy family, a beautiful partner, and just blessed in every way.
I love that. Um, there's hope for people listening that have a child stuck in this loop, and I'm trying to get to that little bit of hope. And for me, it came when I decided to actually bargain with God to say that um, I will stop drinking if you give me what I need, not what I want necessarily. And what I've realized over the past 4 years is that 3 years is that every year that has gone by, He has given me what I needed, only now to realize that it's been leading up to what I wanted. But it took about three years.
Yes, as you're speaking these words to me, Peter, I can't help but think of the scripture of the blind man as Jesus reached down to the mud and placed the mud upon his eyes and said, do you believe that you will receive your sight? And belief is such a strong thing. Choice and belief every single day. You've got to make the choice. You've got to make the choice if you're going to succeed today, if you're going to go back to your old ways, or if you're going to pursue something that He has restored to you and His great power. You need to believe. You need to believe that every day you're on this journey, taking one step from the next in this road of recovery. And I just want to speak out to all of the families out there that are struggling with loved ones in addiction, and just to offer a message of hope to the still suffering addict. If you're listening to this, brother, I was the worst time in medical back. I was abusing fentanyl with heroin on levels that could kill people. People died around me. The remnants of what I'd used, just scraping what was left over, I wasn't dying from it. It was not countless relapses. multiple overdoses. There's hope for you, mother. But you need to make a choice. You need to make a choice now. Because you don't know if you need to. Make a choice today. Reach out to God. Find yourself a sponsor. Call a faith-based ministry. Ask for help. Go to someone you love, someone you trust. Tell them this event. I need God.
Need to be able to speak the words. I'm going to interject that a little bit. We need to be able to speak the words. And so I appreciate you coming through this morning and actually sharing this story with us. Because it's hard. There are parents out there that are hurting so badly. And all they want is the best for their child in order to give them just some semblance of a normal life. Because once you fall into this black hole, it almost seems that as if it is easier to start defining what normal is. Normal is just I have a job, have somebody in my life that loves me. I have a job. I have something that I'm passionate about. And all these dreams of, look, we all still dream, but all these grandiose dreams of the life, you realize that is the cost for most people to have that life. And it's not a life worth living. A life worth living is a godly life, a life of example, a life of heroism and love.
Yes, we have one life. And you realize this when your life is hanging on by a thread and when you're fighting just to get some form of life back. And it's a fight that you're going to fight every day. But the fight becomes easier, my friend. You take one step at a time. And you start to create traction. You start to rebuild those relationships. You start to surround yourself with loved ones. You start to get the support, and it feels great. There's hope in recovery. Don't ever believe that there's no hope. I believed that the only thing that was left for me was a wooden box, an unlabeled grave, and it terrified me. But here I am today, 5 years strong, my own marketing agency. People are wonderful support, just the grace of God in your life. And I mean, who would have thought that just you'd reach out to me and we'd have this powerful conversation? Brother, I hope this hits your heart so hard that you'll do something today. Just open your mouth and speak out and say, please, man, I'm stuck in the darkness. I need help. Somebody help me. And that's the first thing. And then you believe. And you say, one step forward. One day at a time. One moment at a time.
John Lewis, thank you, good sir, for sharing your story with us today. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I'll let our listeners know when the podcast will be up, and if you feel that there's somebody that you'd like to share your story with today, then send it to them. I know who I'm going to be sending this story to. It was an absolute pleasure. So thank you very much.
Pieter, thank you. It's been powerful. I was a little bit nervous coming into studio today, not knowing if we'd break down and we just had. I thought I'd break down, but this is let's scratch below the surface and be real with one another, And this is the journey that I've been chosen to go through, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity for giving me the chance to just share my story of hope and recovery with all of you here at HartiesFM. Thank you so very much.
Big pleasure. Thank you for coming through. John Lewis, saam met my net lewe stuk van hoop vanoggend is nou 3 minute oor